Chapter 2. Marcus. The new girl was just incredible, and I couldn't take my eyes off her all day. Of course, I was glad that it was her first working shift, which made it possible to keep my eyes on her without seeming like some kind of creepy jerk. She was so damned eager to please, and I had to remind myself, on more than one occasion, that she wasn't mine to have and enjoy. Hell, she was eager to please because she wanted to be a good employee. I was looking at her as though she knew all about the community, about those of us who tended toward a particular proclivity. Online, they called people like us a subset. That was it. They wrapped us into BDSM and called us a subset of that lifestyle. Sure, there were those of us who enjoyed spanking with a belt or a paddle as punishment, but ultimately, the relationship wasn't about sex, really. It was a lifestyle. None of the daddies and littles I knew from the club engaged in bondage, although I knew plenty of people who did in other places. The club. The club met at my best friend's lake house every week. We called the gatherings playdates. There were 15 of us at the moment. The littles would get together and play games and color, while the daddies barbecued. There were 8 daddies, and there were 7 little girls. I didn't have a little girl any longer. She moved to the East Coast to get her master's degree 4 years ago, and the long distance just didn't work for us. I didn't think either of us ever believed she was my forever girl, or that I'd be her forever daddy, but it sure as hell put a damper on things for me. We'd been together for 4 years, and my particular preferences as a daddy had become very much tailored to her. To Taylor. That was the joke my best friend Art always made. I was tailored to Taylor. Taylor and I were friends, of a sort, in that we broke up amicably and we spoke once or twice a year. Others in the club tried to set me up, but it never worked out. My fault, of course. Sometimes the girl would feel the spark, but I wouldn't. Most of the time, I didn't get past the fact that the little girl wasn't Taylor. It wasn't that I expected her to be someone she wasn't. It was more that I treated her perfectly, if her needs and wants matched Taylor's perfectly. And, of course, they didn't. After trying a few times, I decided I didn't need the pain. More accurately, I decided the pain of not having anyone was a hell of a lot easier to handle than the pain of being a poor daddy.
Still thinking about Nina, huh?
I looked up from my desk and saw Kendra standing at my office door. I thought you were gone. Your shift ended an hour ago. She smiled at me, a radiant and knowing smile which had first drawn Art to her. They'd been married for 4 years. She didn't move away when Taylor did. She married Art. I hated to admit it, but there were plenty of times I had felt jealous of their relationship over the last 4 years.
Just sidestepping the question, huh?
Oh, she's not even a little, I said.
You sure watched her as if you were her daddy today.
I sighed. It was her first day. I wanted to make sure she was okay.
Sure,
she said with a smile, and then I heard the front doorbell. She saw my expression and said,
I just came over from George's. Daddy!
I watched her run from my view and smiled. I got up, and a moment later, Art pried her off of him and shook my hand. How was the first day of the season? He asked. I was just checking the numbers. Better than the past 3 years. In fact, the only better first day was 4 years ago when that rich kid came in and bought all of the chocolate we had in stock to impress his friends. Take that giant purchase out of the equation, and today was about 40% better than any other year's opening day. Well, let's hope it keeps up then.
Daddy, are we going to dinner?
Kendra asked in a slightly demanding voice. It really was remarkable how she got right into little space, the moment she was done with her responsibilities. Be patient, sweetie, he responded. To me, he said, Barry over at the banquet hall wanted me to tell you he has 7 weddings scheduled this summer, and if you give him a call, he'll let you know the schedules. Thanks, I said. When he met with the couples about amenities for the receptions, Barry always wanted me to prepare a few options for them. We ended up providing candy for about half of the weddings in town. "Well, I better get this little one for her dinner," he said. "You look excited today, Mark. I guess you needed a good season." "It was a great day," I said. I didn't add that my excitement had little to do with the business side of things. Oh, sure, the business was great, but we did fine even in bad years. I owned my place free and clear and didn't have many expenses, so on a good year, I made a lot of money. On a bad year, I kept everyone employed and just didn't make as much for myself. It all worked out. I was excited because of that beautiful girl working for me. I couldn't really wrap my head around how thoughts of Nina had become so prevalent in my mind. She was lovely, of course, but there was more to it. She'd come up with a brilliant idea for managing the crowd and then doubted herself. I'd planned on complimenting her at the end of the day, but I could tell she was worried and nervous. When I handled it all, she beamed with happiness and pride. She'd been so worried that she'd made a mistake that she'd been almost unable to function. I just wanted to throw my arms around her and tell her she's done a good job. I wanted to rock her back and forth and tell her I was proud of her while I stroked her hair. I wanted to take her out for ice cream as a reward. I had to be careful with all of this. I wasn't one of the college kids who'd showed up on that bus. Any one of them was probably far more attractive to her, and they were sure as hell closer to her age. I had to get these ideas out of my mind, so they didn't show. It would be utterly unfair for her to have to come to work every day feeling uncomfortable because her boss had a silly crush on her. She deserved better than that. I was better than that. I sighed and went back to the office to gather my things. Then I turned off the lights and locked up the store. Daddy's Candy was closed until tomorrow, and I was heading back to the empty house that used to feel like a home.